Even if you're completely unaware of the art world, there are some paintings that are hard to miss. The Mona Lisa, the Starry Night, the Scream. These are all paintings that can be recognized almost anywhere. And why not? They feature iconic characters, relatable emotions, and a beautiful mix of colors. So imagine the surprise of many when they realize that a painting that just shows 4 people sitting inside a lonely cafe after midnight became just as popular as these grand paintings. I'm talking about the Nighthawks, painted in 1942 by this guy, Edward Hopper. And when I say the Nighthawks painting is popular, I mean it's really popular. So much so that it has become the poster child of American art. You've heard of don't judge a book by its cover. But have you heard of the saying, the material of the book is always more interesting than the cover? Well, I don't think you have, because I just made that up. But what I'm trying to say is that this simple painting has a very interesting story behind it. And if you haven't guessed it already, this video is going to be about that. I'll tell you the interesting story of how this painting was made and how this painting made the artist. And then we'll try to understand how the Nighthawks painting takes the viewers into the chilly nights of New York in the 1940s. And the people you see here are not just simple addition to fill the space, but to bring a story inside the scene. So pack your bags and take your best clothes and hat because we are going to New York in the 1940s to find out what made Nighthawks an icon. Hopper always had the desire to be a painter, and luckily his parents were also supportive of his passion. But art does not always pay, and that's why Hopper took a job as an illustrator at an advertising company. Back then, companies hired many artists to make promotional material for their brands. Back then Photoshop did not exist. This was the reason why many great artists such as Norman Rockwell became so famous. But back to Hopper. While illustrations paid the bills, he detested the job. Worse yet, he had to work as a freelancer, so he had to travel a lot around the city looking for clients to find work. The reason why this is important is because it was during this time when Hopper's painting style found its essence. Walking around the city, being alone, looking for work was the most difficult time of his life. His friends said that Hopper was depressed during this period, rarely making any paintings, even, and I quote, unable to raise a hand to break the spell. But soon things started getting better. His paintings started selling, and he was also getting some appreciation for his illustrations. In 1918, Hopper was awarded the US Shipping Board Prize for the poster Smash the Hun. Later in the video, you'll find out how ships played an important role in Hopper's artworks. Things took a great turn when he married a fellow artist, Josephine Nevison. It was Joe who gave Hopper the strength and inspiration to paint and express what he felt. He made many paintings in the 30s, but it was during the early part of 40s when Hopper would go on to create his most famous painting, the Nighthawks. Before I get started, I want you guys to take a good look at this painting and try to identify what exactly it is that you feel. Done? I'm sure that many people would have first thought of loneliness, seclusion, being separated from the rest of the world, and even a form of sadness. The painting perfectly captures the state of being alone in a crowd. There are 4 people in the scene. This gentleman here is sitting all alone. You cannot see his face, but he certainly does not look happy. It creates the idea of being all alone in the middle of the night. You kind of feel bad for him, thinking what he must be thinking. Then we shift our gaze towards this couple. A fun fact, Hopper's wife Jo posed for this woman while he posed for the 2 men here. Also, one of the reasons why this painting is called Nighthawks is because of this man's beak-like nose. Come on, you'd be lying if you say you don't see a resemblance. This couple here shows us the idea of being alone together. Even though they are together, they barely have any love or affection towards each other. The girl looks completely uninterested and the man couldn't care less about it. Who are these people and what are they doing at this time of the night does not matter. What matters is that they create a sense of isolation, even when they are sitting so close to each other. Hopper also creates a physical sense of isolation with putting the cafe worker inside this large serving table. This forms a barrier between him and the guests. All of these little elements work together perfectly and give us a sense of isolation, but there's more to the painting. While Hopper never said that this painting aims to show isolation, he did mention something interesting. In an interview with Catherine Koo, Hopper mentioned that Nighthawks is one of his favorite paintings. He also said that this is what he imagines when he thinks of a night street. When she added whether this imagination includes loneliness and emptiness, Hopper said, I didn't see it as particularly lonely. I simplified the scene a great deal and made the restaurant bigger. Unconsciously, probably, I was painting the loneliness of a large city. This is very important to note, as Nighthawks is not the only painting that, even unconsciously, shows the themes of isolation, quietness, and the sense of emptiness, even in crowded areas. Take a look at these paintings that evoke very similar emotion as Nighthawk does. The years when Hopper worked as an illustrator really left a mark on his creative soul. Walking alone in the streets of New York City, washed with neon lights and flashy buildings, yet despite being in a sea of people, Hopper felt alone and isolated. Hopper used to sit for a long time with his canvases, waiting for the inspiration and emotions to come so that he could paint them. Here's a short clip of him describing his creative process.
It's very hard to define how they come about, but it's a long process of gestation in the mind and arising emotion, I suppose.
Hopper could never really get the feeling of loneliness out of his mind, but his tragedy gave him his biggest success. It is hard to see any of his paintings and not get lost in them. Even though you and I have never been to New York in the 1940s, somehow we feel like being there, almost hearing the wind and the silence and the occasional distant noises of a few cars. One of the reasons why this painting is so powerful is because of how it is designed and not painted. Notice how you cannot see a door to enter the cafe. Only one door sits there that leads to perhaps the kitchen. The blue and cold night of the outside contrasts with the warm and yellow lights inside. But there's another contrasting thing that you might have missed. While the cafe is lit up with people inside, notice how all the other houses look completely empty and desolate. These windows here show empty shops and houses. The street is empty too, without any cars. In fact, there is no street light as well. The light from the cafe washes the streets. This adds a very unique effect to the painting and gives it that moodiness. But did you notice the bizarre shape of this cafe? Well, this brings us to another interesting aspect of this painting and many of Hopper's other paintings. Hopper was born in a shipbuilding community and was influenced by them from an early age. Even this trait can be seen in his paintings, showing how true the artist was in his craft. This cafe looks like the bow of a boat, and that's why you do not see any doors leading to the cafe. The warm cafe with large glass windows appear to be sailing in the cold streets. This is not just limited to Nighthawks. Take a look at this painting. The man is sitting at the corner of the office, again with large windows. Another painting called Night Windows shows something similar. So does Cape Cod Morning, another one of his most favorite paintings. You know the most fascinating thing about Hopper's paintings? When you look at Hopper's early works and move ahead in time, you can clearly see how the subtle and perhaps subconscious themes of loneliness and isolation started appearing in his paintings. The more time he spent in making these paintings, the more evident these themes became. Finally, to end this video on a bittersweet note, the last painting by Edward Hopper is called Two Comedians, and it shows two people, a male and a female, standing on the stage, bidding farewell. This was Hopper's way of saying goodbye, as he expressed himself through the show of his paintings. From the very first painting and illustrations that he was forced to do, to the final ones where he could truly express himself, the journey of Edward Hopper was inspiring to say the least. And Nighthawks embodies the essence of the journey. It gives us a bittersweet feeling of being alone with our thoughts, even in a crowd. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. And you know what's something you should always like? All of my videos, of course. I'm just kidding. But if you like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. That alone is enough for me to keep doing it and bringing more interesting art stories. And as always, till we meet next time, have a great day ahead.